Hi, it's Candy with Blessed Life, and I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about something that's been weighing on my mind since I saw it on a friend's Facebook page. If you like my opinions, you can thumbs up them. If you don't like them, you can thumbs down them. But she was she was actually the older sister of my best friend in high school, and she had a I can't even remember what it said, but I remember the last tagline was about privileged white men. And it stopped me in my tracks because I started, your dad was a white man. Her dad has passed away, but as far as I know, her dad was a really good man. He worked hard. He was a working class person all his life. And, he he wasn't anything that we're accusing men of today, that, for example, they hold women down. Well, her dad was a roofer and a framer for houses. And he was like a subcontractor, and he would build the frames and the roofs of houses. And he gave his teenage daughters the opportunity. He told them they didn't have to, but they could come work for him and, save up for their car and save up, gas money and stuff like that. Or, if they wanted, they could go anyplace else. Their youngest sister actually, I think, went to work for Disney and McDonald's during high school and college, so she didn't do this. But he gave his two oldest daughters, he let them come to work for him. He paid them exactly what he paid the guys, and he gave them an opportunity, instead of making the $5 minimum wage, to make, I think they were making like $8-10 an hour when they worked for him. And it was exactly what he paid grown adult men already out of high school to do. So he was an equal opportunity employer, especially when it came to women. So, I kind of, when I see that, especially when I see it from some of my friends, and I know that their dads were good and their husbands are good men and stuff like that, I'm like, really, why are you going there? And, in defense of my dad, my dad was a white man, but my dad had absolutely no privilege. He was born dirt poor. His father worked for the railroads, but they had 8 kids, and my grandpa drank too much and spent too much drinking, and so they were poor. And my dad went into World War II when he was 15 years old after the bomb in Pearl Harbor, after they bombed Pearl Harbor, and he was kind of a hometown hero. And he went in, he came back, he worked in the steel mills for a while, then he went back in the military. He worked his butt off for his raises. Do not tell me that he made rank faster than anybody else because he was white and his skin wasn't brown or yellow or black, because he got turned down at different times too for rank, and had some disappointments that way. But he just kept plugging it out, and he worked his butt off. And he was a man that every single man that ever worked with my dad, it will say that my dad was a hero. He was a good man. He was a good leader. I can't even tell you when he died the number of letters we got from people that we didn't even know them really well. They weren't even like in our circle of friends, but we did have a large circle of friends. And in our large circle of friends, we're all colors. We had Asians, we had Mexicans and Hispanics, we had blacks, we had whites, everything. My dad had best friends of every single color, so you cannot call him a racist. You cannot, and I'm sick of it. I'm just so sick of this idea that just because of a person's skin tone, they have to automatically be labeled, especially if they're not, a Democrat and don't agree and didn't want Hillary Clinton as president. We're racist, we're sexist. And this deriding of men or women just because of the color of their skin is ridiculous, and it's got to stop. It's not biblical. It's not, back in Bible times, Israel was a set-apart nation, and they didn't intermix with other people, but they were a nation. They were not a race. They did not see themselves as a race, and they separated themselves because God told them to. But some of them still intermarried. Jacob's brother intermarried with other girls, and others through history intermarried. Solomon had girls from pretty much every country. Unfortunately, he had way too many. uh, girls. But I mean, so you cannot say that somebody. It's just as wrong to say that all white men are privileged or all white people are privileged because of the color of their skin as it is to say that all blacks go to jail. Okay? Not all black people go to jail. That's not true. Now, yes, there are statistics that a larger proportion of black men than white men go to prison. And I've even seen it because my husband was in prison. And I sat in the visiting rooms and I was amazed. But it's you cannot generalize and villainize every single person just by the color of their skin, and that's what's happening. And in defense of my dad, in defense of my uncles, in defense of all of the white men that I know are good, hard-working men, I'm just disgusted by this attitude. And I don't think it's fair, and I don't think it's right, and I don't think it's fair to villainize anybody. And if you want to go on the reverse end and you want to throw up to me that, white men did this or that through history, I love history. So I can tell you for every thing that you tell me, I can give you two that the black cultures did this or that, or the Asian cultures did this or that, or the Arabic cultures did this or that, or, whatever, the Indians did this or that. I can tell you horrible things that every single kind of man, every single skin color has ever done on earth that is evil, okay? So you cannot, say, because a white man did this, one, or 100 white men did this, that all white men are evil, and especially if it's 100 years old, for crying out loud. Everybody's done that because we live in a world without God. We live in a world, as a Christian growing up, I always thought most people were Christian. And so I thought everything was, kind of hunky-dory, and everybody I knew kind of was a Christian. And I remember in high school, my best friend that I just talked about, her dad was an atheist, and she was an atheist, and she was raised atheist, and her sisters were raised atheist. Her mother was raised Roman Catholic, but I think she became an atheist through the influence of the dad. But they were the first people that I ever knew that didn't believe in God. And then I remember my 11th grade American history teacher, Mrs. Tettenbaum. She was Jewish, and she drove me home one day, and I don't even know how we got on the topic, but she said she's Jewish, but she didn't believe in God. She was an atheist. And that was the first time I ever met or knew people that didn't believe in God, and it just but I still thought that they were not the norm. But we live in a godless world. We live in a world that is populated with people that need God. And even people that believe in God oftentimes are crazy and do bad things and don't understand the Bible and everything. And so, but basically, the world, if you see any evil in the world, any injustice in the world, any horribleness in the world, it's because mostly the people that are doing those actions, whether they say or not that they believe in God, in the Bible it says your fruit will bear witness to you. And so if you're running around and killing innocent people and you say I'm a Christian, you might have, something to say. Or if you're doing, or if you're crooked in business and you're doing crooked things in business, that's not what you should be doing if you're a Christian. So those are, things that godless people are doing. And that is the problem. That is the huge problem. And let's talk about privilege now. If somebody is, okay, I have a cousin. We're going to talk about my cousin Jerry for a minute. Jerry was born in poverty. He actually spent time in orphanages because his mom was too poor to even take care of him and his brother, so she put him in the orphanage. So at least he had, a roof over his head, food, and, clothing. And so there were times, he came out of poverty. But Jerry, I don't know what it was, but he was driven to make money. And Jerry is the only person in our family, except for maybe his son, that I know of that, like hit the millionaire status and has, a lot of money, and he can do whatever he wants, and God bless him. But I know Jerry worked his butt off for it. He used his brain for it. He did what it took. And it didn't come because he was white. It was because he really wanted it. He had vision for it, and he worked for it, and he got it, and he accomplished it. And I think that had he been black, or had he been Asian, or had he been Hispanic, or had he been Arab, whatever it was, it didn't matter. He could have still had that background, and he still would have gotten to where he was. It had nothing to do with the color of his skin. Now, Jerry has lots of money. He's got a son, and he's got a brand new son because he's got a brand new wife. And Jerry's worked hard all his life. Now, in the Bible, it talks about inheritance, and Abraham gave his inheritance to his son, and other kings and other people, they talk about their blessings and their inheritance for their sons. Isaac gave a blessing for his sons. And that's very important, and it's biblical that if you have what you have, you pass on to your children. But so if a white man is rich and he turns around and he gives his money and his houses and his possessions to his child, that's not privilege. He worked for it, and he deserves to give it. Now, we have a mentality in the U.S. right now. No. You've got a lot of money. You worked hard, but I don't want to work that hard, but I want some of that money. So let the government take that money from you and tax you and give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. Me. But I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to use my brain. I don't want to, do whatever it takes. I don't want to accumulate over years. I don't want to save. I don't want to, I just give it to me. And so, screw your kid. You don't have any right to leave anything to your kid as an inheritance. And that's wrong too. And it's the same. It doesn't matter what color of the skin a person is. The legacy thing about going to universities. Well, yeah, because, a lot of white people went to universities. A lot of universities were established by whites, and blacks weren't allowed in the beginning and stuff like that. But now you have a lot of black people who have second, third generations going to the same universities because they're legacies. Should we take that away from them? Should we say, oh, no, you're a legacy. You can't, that's privilege for you to go to that university. Or, and it's just messed up. And honestly, everybody needs to stop looking at everybody else. Honestly, you need to, if you want it, go work for it. And the Bible says that. The Bible says work hard for what you want. It does not, Paul says, if you don't work, you don't eat. There's no, take from the rich people and, give to the poor people. There's nothing in the Bible that says, a poor person has the right to take what a rich person has. Could it be that generations and generations and generations back, they did something bad to get that money and power, and, now they're on the fourth generation? But, that is life, people. You need to stop looking and saying it's unfair. You need to start looking at yourself. What can I do? This is where I want to be in 20 years or 15 years or 5 years or 10 years, whatever it is. And you make your own goals and you set your own goals. But if you are constantly just concentrating on what somebody else has and what somebody else does and what somebody, you will never get anywhere. You're just going to sit there unsatisfied, dissatisfied, whatever word you want to use, and get absolutely nowhere in life. You have to just look at yourself, put your blinders on, and go forward with what you want. That is what every successful person in this world does. And it doesn't matter the color of their skin. It doesn't matter what their daddies did or for example, it doesn't matter that my dad was a highly successful Marine who was well decorated, lots of medals, had, was well looked upon and everything. All the people, the world doesn't owe me something because of that. And nobody would say, hey, Candy, your daddy was a hero. Let me give you a house. No, that's not the way it works. My dad, and my dad left me. My dad and my mom died shortly after my dad. So we did have an inheritance from my parents, but, and what we did with it was, maybe not the wisest things, but, that was their right and their prerogative. But nobody else owes me for that. Nobody else owes me for what my dad did. It's the same way with Paris Hilton. Nobody else, she's inherited because of what a great-great-grandfather established and started. And then, the grandfather, and then the father has worked in everything. And so there's been an inheritance down the line. Now, is she the sharpest tool in the shed? Absolutely not. But can I say she doesn't deserve it? No. Because somebody in her family had the work ethic to make and do and become something, and they made something. And maybe it was pure and sheer luck. I don't know, because I don't know the history of the Hilton hotels and everything. I don't know exactly how they came out. Maybe they did it by hook and crook all the way back then. But the people that they hooked and crooked are not alive anymore. So that time has come and gone. And now she's, inherited millions and she's well off. So be it. I don't care. It doesn't take anything from me for her. The idea that because somebody else has something, it takes something from me is not, it doesn't make sense. I can make and do what I choose to make and do. I chose to become a teacher, and now I make a good living because of being a teacher. But if I had chosen to be a lawyer or a doctor or some other profession, I might be making a lot more money right now. Had I, plugged it out harder to be an actress like I wanted to be when I was in high school and stuff, and gone straight to Hollywood and everything, maybe, I would be a millionaire right now. But I'm not. But whose fault is that? That's my fault for choices I made. It's not anybody else's choices. And you have to start taking personal responsibility. And this whole idea of white privilege that, it just is, it's just so ridiculous. And it's becoming very hateful and very frightening and very nonsensical. And I'm afraid where it's going, because it's like, yeah, I'm a white person. And I can't change it. Now, my husband is Colombian and he's Hispanic. Technically, there's only 3 races for people, in case you don't know this. It's Caucasian, it's Mongoloid, and it's Negroid. Okay, Caucasian is pretty much most of the population in the world. Mongoloid is Asians, Indians, the people from the Pacific Islands. And Negroid is people from Africa with the dark skin. And yeah, there are some slight differences that they justify even having the 3 races, because I don't really believe in races. I believe in humanity. But like they say, the skull shapes are a little bit different. The eye sockets are a little different. The nose sockets are a little different. The thickness of the skulls are a little different. And they can tell what a person was, from their bones. And then, of course, visually with skin, you can tell the differences. Asians have specific skin colors, specific eye shapes and stuff. Negroids have, they're from Africa. They're going to have the darker skin. Some of them have, but even within all 3 categories, if you look, Caucasian, Negroid, and Mongoloid, you're going to have a wide range of eye shapes and nose shapes and skin colors. And some are super tall, some are super short, some are, tend to have fat in different places. Some of them tend to have that really perfect metabolism that we all wish we had and tend to be thin. So even like within every range of race, there are huge differences all along the lines. And then on top of that, thanks to the fact that men like to travel and conquer and do wars and go everywhere and explore everything, pretty much a good deal of us, I have no idea what the percentage is, but a lot, especially if you're American or South American, or even in you're a little bit of a mutt, you can have some Mongoloid in you, you can have some Asian in you, you can have some white in you, you can have some whatever it is, you can have it all mixed up because of people traveling to different places. For example, the Indians in North and South America were considered like the Mongoloids, but the Spanish and the Americans or the English and the French and everybody that came here, they mixed with the Indians originally, and so most of us are a little bit mixed. Maybe not all of us, but a lot of us are mixed that way. My dad has a little I'm not my dad. My husband has a little Cuban in him, and that is code word for black. His family. It's a secret you're not supposed to tell anybody. According to his aunt, who was almost 100 years old when she passed away just last year. So everybody is a little bit of everything anyway, and we're all human in the end. So, but stop looking, I think my main message is stop looking at other people, at what they have, and thinking that because they have that, it's not fair and it takes away from you. It takes absolutely nothing away from you. And wherever you are, it's true. Paris Hilton started out with a lot, okay? So she has more advantages in life in many ways than, say, I did, because I wasn't born into that super rich family. But then again, I have a lot of advantages that I think she didn't have. I was raised with morals, for one. So, it all balances out, and it's all what we do individually. There are plenty of people that are born filthy rich that die poor and in poverty, and there are plenty of people that are born in poverty that die filthy rich and have an inheritance to leave to their children. So it just all depends on you as an individual, and you have to start looking at that. Stop looking at other people and wanting what they have and thinking the only way that you can get what you want is to take from them. Okay? You have to it's an individual responsibility, and it's not, who cares about this person or that person? I mean, I could say it was unfair when I went to college and I got straight A's and I worked my butt off, but because I didn't have a baby and my skin was the wrong color, I didn't get certain monetary benefits from going to college that I saw a lot of other people getting. But, I put my head down and concentrated on getting my good grades and trying to get as much money as I could. I didn't worry about what somebody else was getting or how much another person was being paid to go to college the second time around. The first time around, I didn't understand. And the first time around, because of the family that I was born into, we didn't understand financial aid at all. My guidance counselors in high school sucked. They didn't help us or explain how you can get financial aid. And so I pretty much paid for my first degree all on my own. And I probably could have, I learned later how good my SAT scores were and how good my grades were, because I worked hard for my grades. And people were like, why didn't you get scholarships? Why didn't, anybody tell you that you could have gotten help for this and that and everything else? Nobody told me, and we didn't understand and even know those kind of things existed. So, and this is back in the 80s, and I just felt lucky that I was the first one going to school. So, that's how I felt. Everybody has a situation in their life, and you can't keep looking at what other people have and want to take it. It's a really bad mentality to be in, a really bad head to be in. And so that's where I am, and that's what I think. And God bless white men, God bless black men, God bless Asians and Hispanic men and Arab men and all men. God bless all women of all different colors. And I hope everybody has a beautiful, blessed day. And thumbs up if you don't mind, and subscribe, and notifications if you want. And I will talk to you later. Bye.